Welcome to Threshold Stories, crossing thresholds one story at a time. I'm your host, Jeff Gaura. Hi everybody, this will be the last video I shoot from Nepal during our trip in 2021. And it's a challenge on a trip like this, both going into it and before you leaving it, trying to determine what part of it is going to impact you the most. The temptation when you do a trip like this is to conclude the stuff that's on paper and the fancy pictures represent the great memory, right? For our group, the idea of 100% of the people making it all the way to Annapurna Base Camp in and of itself was a big deal. Yet the Himalayas as a mountain range are unique in that no matter how high up you get, you're going to conclude without thinking about it that there's still a lot more to go. Even if you summit Everest, you see the surrounding mountains, you go, ooh, I got to do those. Well, for us, the act of getting to base camp was very overwhelming. Literally, every person in the group except me got sick at some point. And the illnesses range from headaches to upset stomachs to vomiting, you name it. Oh, by the way, everybody persevered, and I'm sure that's going to represent a huge part of the memory for everybody. I personally got to watch as a guide 100% of the participants grow. That's the whole point of Threshold and Threshold Academy. Everybody hit this wall, and they overcame it. The temptation in our country is when you hit a wall like that is to look for relief. This group didn't do that. They kept going. That in and of itself is a huge thing. But to bring it full circle, at the end of the trip, we come to Dang, which is where I'm filming it, where this is being filmed from, and I'm on the roof of a building and listening to a community getting ready to celebrate their equivalent of the Thanksgiving holiday. And the lower Himalayas are in the background here. The sun is beginning to set, and I'm reflecting on this evening. So this evening, I went to go visit a couple of people who I've known for about 35 years, but most importantly, our last visit was to the headmaster of the school that I worked at, Bojraj Bandari. And when we arrived at his house, he greeted us like all Nepalis do. We got served more food than we could eat. We got lots of choices. And we sat down in a room and began looking at each other. But what he did in that moment, which was unique that no one else has done, is he went and found his photo album, and he had pictures in there of the two of us that we did not have, that I had never seen before. And he pulled those out and he began to show them to me, and he had a smile on his face. It was immensely meaningful to him to realize that even after 35 years since meeting the crazy white guy who was going to be teaching in his school, and he didn't know what I was going to do. I was basically an ungroveled piece of dynamite to him. He didn't know how he was going to act, how I was going to act. He gets to look back and see what that risk was he made and what the investment looks like. And so you can see from this photo right here of us that we still love each other. But if you look at this next photo, in this photo are three of our greatest investments. We have his son Arun, whom I've invested in, Kopiram, and Navraj. Two of the three of them are leaders in universities. Arun and Navraj each have staffs of between 50 and 100 educated people who report to them every day. And Kopiram has a constituency base of more than 10,000 who have elected him as their official, and he talks to them all the time. And when I was looking at Bojraj and telling him that we did really good work, he said, look, these are our seeds. These are our seeds. They have grown and they've germinated. My heart is so full from spending that last hour with Bojraj and just listening to him talk. Of course, he wanted to know when we're coming back next year. His son has a beautiful house in Kathmandu, and when I arrive early next year, like I do before all these treks, and I try to acclimate and make sure I take care of trekking permits, in-country flights, dealing with the latest laws, seeing what kind of medical requirements there are, shopping for medicines, all those things. Instead of staying in Tamil, which is historically what I do, I'm just going to stay at Arun's house because he's opened it up to me, and I've done it before, and it's just a wonderful time. So 2022, guys, it's already got more than half of its spot filled, and I just can't wait to do this again. This is such a great experience. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to this chapter of Threshold Stories, crossing thresholds one story at a time. Be ready to cross more thresholds with me in 2 weeks. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. You can find me on LinkedIn or on my Facebook page at Jeff Gaura Team USA.